नहीं वो बहुत डिफिकल्ट काम करने बात है सेक्शन किया आपने फुटवर्क जो किया
Very good evening, one and all. This is Vanilla, program coordinator from Hyderabad. So we have our faculty and Dr. Suresh Kumar sir and Dr. Gayatri who will be introducing sir. So it's already 7:01. So we'll just wait for 2-3 more minutes and we'll start the session. As agreed by Suresh sir also, we'll be starting the session in another 4 minutes. So if your friends are around you, please pass the message that the session is already on and the faculty has joined. I already dropped a message in the training group, so it will be nice. And as a housekeeping message, I request all the participants to turn on your video camera as soon as the session starts. And please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. If you have any questions, you can always raise your hand and ask your questions. And always you can type the questions in the chat box. We'll read out them for you. And at the end of the session, we'll also be sharing the PowerPoint into PDF and also the recorded YouTube link on the playlist. And requesting all the participants to please kindly rename yourself, which is very, very important for the purpose of attendance. I see someone have joined by name Galaxy M11. So please rename yourself. If you're not able to do it, please type your name in the chat box. We'll rename it for you. Once again, welcome back. It's 7:05 and we have to start the session now. Good evening, Gayatri ma'am. I request Dr. Gayatri to please introduce Suresh Kumar sir.
Good evening to all of you. I welcome back once again. I know that all of you going through very difficult times. I hope Dr. Suren is all right. And condolence to him once again on behalf of all of us from India. But with great pressure, I also introduced Dr. Suresh. Thanks for joining. First of all, in spite of all the difficulties you're facing, you're joining this session. Dr. Suresh, I think all of you met on the day of inauguration. He's the director for WHO Collaborating Center, Calicut, and which is an alma mater for most of us for palliative care. I learned my palliative care there. From the place he comes from, Calicut, and he's my mentor, my teacher, and he's a great soul as a person. He's a great human being. And for coming to the topic per se, the spirituality as such is a very difficult topic, even that it's such an abstract concept, and to put that concept in the form of teaching is a very tough thing to do. And so that's the reason I like to hear from Suresh, because it's very the whole concept is so abstract, and to make a kind of a sense of that, he always does a very great job with that. So I always like to hear from his session on spirituality. So it's a great privilege that we have him here today to discuss spirituality. So over to you, Suresh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gayatri, and good evening, everybody. As you know, I'm familiar with the Sri Lankan scene. I've been there many times in the past, like even just before COVID, I was there. So what we're planning to discuss today is spirituality and its relevance to palliative care. But as Gayatri said, this is a nebulous concept. It's not a very, very concrete concept. Or it's something like nobody's area, and it's also everyone's area, because we all have our own concepts and thoughts and convictions about spirituality, and which sometimes helps or which sometimes may not help. So I have 1 hour, but I have a few slides also. But what I hope to do is to discuss as we go on. Like if you have any questions or any difference of opinion, because everybody is an expert here, or nobody is an expert here, like, because this is we all have our idea. So raise your question, like, you can use the chat box, or sometimes you can raise your hand and talk, and let's make it a very informal interactive session. And I'll share some of my thoughts on spirituality, and you can contradict me, you can argue, you can agree with me, whatever. I have a few slides. I'll start with the just one more. Yes. Is this visible? Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said this is I won't be talking from one side, and we'll be discussing it rather. Let me start with a few questions to see where each one of us stand. So I have 3 questions to start with. But the first question, what is spirituality, maybe we'll discuss later, because that will be very difficult to define now. Second and third question, like, what's your position on spirituality? Well, second question is actually, what is spirituality's relationship with religion? Basically, I want to know, can you be spiritual without being religious? That's my key question. Third question is again about God. What is the relationship of spirituality with God? The question that I want to pose is, can you be spiritual without believing in God? So let's have some thoughts on this. Can you be, the 2 questions, the spirituality, first spirituality question, let's ignore for the time being. What is spirituality? That is the first question. We'll discuss it towards then. But the second and third question, what do you think? Do you think that you can be spiritual without being religious? A person who is not religious at all, can he or she be spiritual? And the other question is, again, like somebody who does not believe that there is a God, or somebody is a non-believer, can he or she be spiritual? Yeah, let me, any opinion, like, this is as I said, this is not an expert area, this is not, your opinion is as good as mine. So I'm just asking for your suggestions on this. Either you can raise your hand and speak, or you can put it in the chat box. Can one person be spiritual without being religious, or can a non-religious person be spiritual? That was the first question. What do you think? Yes or no? Type in the chat box.
Sir, can you speak,
Silence.
Tamil also, sir?
I
Bit
can
of
understand.
Tamil?
I
Okay.
can understand. I can
Okay.
understand. Yeah,
No,
maybe,
maybe-
but if there is somebody who can translate, that'd be good. I can understand Tamil, but my Tamil is not very good. Okay.
Yes, sir. Tanujan, sir, you want to respond to Dr. Suresh sir's question, or Dr. Jayarasa? Any one of you?
Can you be spiritual without being religious? That is the question. Or in other words, can a non-religious person be spiritual? I think Tanujan is trying to say something.
You're muted, sir. Please unmute and speak.
But please unmute and speak, Tanujan.
Yes, spirituality should be not always with the religious.
Okay. So you feel that somebody who is not religious can be spiritual. Okay. What about the other one? The third question. You don't believe in God. Can you still be spiritual?
Sorry, sir.
The other question was, can somebody who does not believe in God be spiritual?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's a fairly radical statement. Let's see. Shobika was also saying yes. Yes for both, or yes for only the religious question? Shobika.
Both.
Both. Okay. So yeah. Anybody else? Like there must be people who do not think so. No, I don't think everybody agrees on this. Can a non-believer be spiritual?
Requesting all the participants to please either say something or post something in the chat box to make this
Either yes
session
or no.
interactive. Yes, yeah, please.
Yes. There's some starting trouble, but we can manage it. Let's see. Yeah. Anybody else? Sundar Raja. Now I can see Nirmala here. Yeah. Nirmala, do you agree? Please unmute.
Agree, sir. I agree with you, sir.
Both. No. That was not I only raised the question. It's only Tanujan and Shobika who responded. Yeah. Do you agree with them? Please unmute, Nirmala. I think she's mute again. Nirmala, yeah.
Yes.
Both. She's saying both. How can be, Tanujan? I'll come back to you. How can be somebody who does not believe in God, who does not believe in the existence of God? How can he or she be spiritual?
Yes, somebody only thought that they didn't imagine any kind of a god with a statue or any with a structure. So they just feel so there's one of the extra power.
No.
in the
I'm
world.
talking about somebody who does not believe in any extra power at all.
Yes.
Nothing. So will that person, can that person be spiritual? No, not a specific God. Somebody
Yes.
who thinks that there is no God at all. No extra power. What do you think? Shobika is meanwhile trying to answer. Like we're waiting for Tanujan's answer, but Shobika, I want Shobika to say something. Shobika, can you explain? No, somebody who does not believe in God at all.
Shobika ma'am, can you, I think you tried to put something in the chat box. So Dr. Suresh is requesting you to please just explain if you can, like what is that?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
does
she
that
is
mean?
saying that spiritual is finding peace in what they like. Okay, but what about God? What about God? Tanuja, I'm coming back to you.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that somebody like that can be spiritual?
Yes, sir. I think so.
Okay. That's a difficult one. We'll come back to you. Okay, Sobika, do you want to say anything before I go to the next slide?
So,
Okay, yeah, please.
yes, sir. Somebody has few of the participants have put their answers in the chat, like
Yep.
Robin
Yeah,
saying yes for both, and Dr. Tivakaran, I think he said yes for both. So,
Okay. Spiritual is finding peace. They like. Yeah, but because I could see yes, Robin said yes. Yes to both or yes only to the first one? Robin Roshandi. I usually find people saying yes to both. So this is a peculiar group actually. Usually I see people saying yes to non-religious, but when it comes to God, there will usually be some people who believe that okay, you cannot be spiritual without a concept of God. Okay, we'll come back to that question, and meanwhile let me continue with the sharing. Okay, so these are the two questions that I put, three questions, and this is like as we started discussing, this is a very spirituality is a very fluid concept, very fluid, and some people tend to define in different ways. Even we could see Shobika defining it as somebody finding peace with what they like, and some associate with the concept of God, some do not. Okay, I know that there are a lot of people in the group who associate with God, but people are not being very vocal. And whatever be your concept, it's generally agreed that it is connected with two things. One is responding to suffering. How do you respond to suffering? It's somewhere connected with spirituality. And the other one is actually, how do you find meaning in your life? What is the meaning of your life? How do you find meaning? These are the two areas which are connected with spirituality very often.
sir,
Yeah.
I think you can, sorry to interrupt, sir. If you see any,
Yeah,
because
please.
you are the co-host, you'll see participants admitting in. So just leave them, sir. I'll keep admitting them until another 5-10
When I
minutes.
see somebody waiting, I go.
Yeah, I'm doing it, sir, from
Okay.
yeah, so
Right.
your screen gets
I'll
stuck, sir.
focus.
Yes.
I'll focus.
No, sir, not like that. Your
No.
screen,
This is fine. Not in a bad way.
when you do that, no, sir, laptop
Yeah,
slide gets stuck.
I know. It's serious.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So why do we discuss spirituality, particularly in palliative care? Is the question. Like palliative care, when you look at palliative care, we try to address symptoms, we try to give emotional support, we get to address social issues, and basically we are addressing suffering in the patient and family. That is one thing. And the second one is actually we are trying to help the patient to live meaningfully. If the patient may live only for a few years or few months or few weeks, what we are basically trying to do is to how do you make that we cannot extend that life. We know that this is incurable disease, somebody is about to die. But how do you make that short duration, whatever life is left, how do you make it meaningful? So this is very closely linked with the other two. When we were defining spirituality, we were saying that, okay, spirituality is connected with responding to suffering, which we are doing in palliative care. Spirituality is connected with me finding a meaning in life, which again we are trying to do, because how do you help I'll come back to this question, because the basic question is like, what is the meaning in somebody's life if the life is only for 3 months? What is the meaning in somebody's life if the life is only for a few days or a few years? So we'll come back to that. So we have overlapping areas, like Prayalicika has a very closely overlapping area of spirituality. And so that is why we are taking these together. So another question is suffering. Suffering, we all know, many of us might have undergone some phases of suffering. We all know what is suffering. But when you define suffering, that's the question, my question. That is, we all have inconvenience in life, like some inconvenience every day. No day goes without any inconvenience. But some we don't call all inconvenience suffering. So the question is, how does suffering differ from an inconvenience? When does an inconvenience become suffering? We say that our patients are suffering. A cancer, an advanced cancer is not just an inconvenience. That very often is a suffering. And many other things may be suffering. So my question again is, how does an inconvenience become a suffering? When do you call something an inconvenience, and when do you start calling it a suffering? Chat box, please. Yeah. When do you call it when do you call something a suffering? What makes an inconvenience a suffering? They are very quiet. I like to come back to you, Tanuja. you are one of the vocal persons in the group. When do you call it suffering?
Yes, suffering mean our mind is not happy, and also our mind is not allowing to live with the happy.
Okay, so your mind is, you call it suffering when your mind is occupied with that problem all the time. Your mind is not at peace. Okay. In anything else? Anything? That's one major criteria. Yes. And anything else?
And if a patient have a
no, it can be. It need not necessarily be the patient. It can be you and me.
Yeah. Yes.
It can be you or me. No. When do I call it? Inconvenience suffering. One is that when
if a person
my mind is.
Yeah, and also if a person have a pain or is if anything happened to a person, or all the things happen to the person is very negatively, or any loss of the person, so he will think like suffer.
That's the approach. And then Nirmala was saying that suffering is inconvenient physically, mentally, and emotionally. Right. The whole being is involved. And also Shobhika says that when there is some difficulty or disturbance to a person, it's inconvenience. What is suffering, Shobhika? Yeah, I agree that is inconvenience. What is suffering? Where is Shobhika? Yeah, some difficulty is inconvenient. And when will it become suffering? Like the few points we already raised. One is if it involves, involves the mind, and if you are occupied for the whole time, this is suffering. When all it's the other way around, no? Okay, the person you say that again, something very similar to what Tanujan was saying. When you start feeling that everything is inconvenient, when your mind is fully occupied and you are not happy, there are a few more things. Sometimes the duration, if it's a short duration, you may not find it as suffering. If it's a long duration, and sometimes the feeling of helplessness. If you have a solution, you find that, okay, I have to go through this for 3 days, and at the end of 3 days, this will be over. That may not be suffering very often. But if you do not know when this is going to end, that again becomes suffering. So this is when you look at the patient, when you look at this patient with advanced cancer or somebody about to die, the situation is that the mind is occupied, they're fully into it, and they do not know when this is going to end. So as you have already mentioned, it's a very personal matter. Something which may appear as suffering to me may not appear as suffering to another person. Somebody would say that what is there to be worried so much about it? But it's personal. If I feel that this is suffering, I find it as suffering. And also this second part also, as many of you have mentioned, that is, it's not just physical. It includes mind and spirit, like the whole being is. And suffering at the end of life, again, is something that we come across when you see this patient. Dying is actually an experience of loss. You are losing something, and people around you are losing something. They lose you, and you lose a lot of things. You are leaving a lot of things. Again, that's a feeling of loss, is there? And then the feeling, the realization that I will die so very soon. It can cause immense suffering for many people. Like when they realize that, okay, I have only few months to live, or I have only few days to live, that is not an easy thing to live with, because that causes a lot of suffering. And when you talk about suffering and care of somebody with suffering, this person need to be remembered. This is a man called Viktor Frankl. Have any of you heard about him? Viktor Frankl? There's a famous book by him, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a small book. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist. He was a Jew, so he had to spend a lot of years in during the Second World War. He had to spend a lot of years in German concentration camp because he was a Jew. He was put in the concentration, and he faced death multiple times. He was sent to gas chamber a couple of times, but he escaped. So he 6-7 years he was there, and all his literature, he was writing a thesis which was destroyed. He was like tortured physically, but he came out of it. And then he started thinking about how he came out of it, like because this extreme suffering, and which led to a branch of he actually developed a branch of psychotherapy called logotherapy, LOGO, logotherapy, which basically tells you how do you address suffering. What are the things that you do as a carer? What are the things that you do as a professional to help somebody in suffering? This is you can get books available in your library and online, or you can order them. And this particular book is actually, first part is his experience in that concentration camp. The second half is actually basic principles of logotherapy. And one of the things that he regularly, constantly say is that man is not destroyed by suffering, but he is destroyed by suffering without meaning. If you can, one way of addressing it, one way of coming out, one way of fighting it would be to see some meaning in it. That's not possible all the time, but that is what the main thing. That is, I'll come back to again more of this. But this is what you are saying, and then he further explores the concept of meaning. What is meaning? How do you find meaning in your life? Is the second question. Because once you find a meaning, the suffering no longer becomes major suffering. So this was again he was exploring it. So the one again, something that he says that we all need at least one reason to continue living. We may not be aware of it all the time, but we all have need something to live. We all need some reason to live till tomorrow. We all need some reason to live for 5, even in a difficult time or a happy time. We need some reason to say we need to look forward to something tomorrow, or something day after tomorrow, or something after 1 month, something after 2 weeks, something after 5 years. That only keeps us going. If you do not have such a meaning, if we do not find any reason to look forward to, your life comes to a stop, and you set depression sets in, indifference sets in, you don't know, you don't find a reason why you should live. So this is something again that is said. So one of the, putting it on the reverse, one way of making suffering more tolerable is to find a reason to live till this is over. So, like it may be, you may be having 3 months, only 3 months, but if you find a reason to live for those 3 months, and if you find a meaning in those 3 months, the 3 months may not be suffering, or you can come out. So this is one of the so that the basic question now is like, how do you find meaning in your day-to-day life, rather than like, because when you are ill, and when you have an incurable illness, and when you know that you are about to die, a lot of other things disappear, because a lot of plans collapse. A lot of your aims and objectives are no more valid. A lot of things become irrelevant. So at that situation, how do you find the meaning in life? This is again something that we need to address in Palliative Care. So this is the question that we face in Palliative Care. When you connect spirituality or this approach Palliative Care from this angle, what is there for a patient with a few days or weeks to live to look forward? So this is the question. This is like earlier he was not thinking about death. He was planning to do a lot of things. He was planning to get the child educated, or a daughter married, or to build a house, or complete his education. He was looking forward to his promotion, a lot of stuff. And now he knows that, okay, I cannot do any of those things. And now he knows that I have only a few weeks to live. So what should be a reason to? So this is the most important and most difficult challenge in Palliative Care, because you can if you are good at your pharmacology, and if you are good at your clinical skills, you can give symptom relief, and some counseling skills, you can offer some emotional support. But the question, why should I do this? Why should I live? Because I'm anyhow going to die in 3 months. So this is something that we need to explore. That's where this spirituality and Palliative Care comes on the same place. And then the question is, like, the meaning of life need not be the ultimate meaning of life. Like, you can say that some people say that I have an ultimate meaning in life. This is what I do. But again, Viktor Frankl was saying that that does not matter. Like, if we can find an ultimate meaning in life, well and good. But many people are not able to find it. Many people are not able to reflect on it and say that, okay, the purpose of my life is that. We don't have a lot of people who can confidently say that the purpose of my life is to achieve this or such and such. No, that's very rare. But the meaning, he says, is that the meaning differ from person to person, and the meaning differ from day to day. Why should I? The basic question, if you break into a smaller compartment, the basic question is, what is the reason for me to live till tomorrow? So it may be going to a friend's marriage tomorrow. It may be sort of seeing my children again tomorrow. It may be having some good food as lunch tomorrow, whatever. So day to day, at any moment, what is the meaning? So again, if you apply it to the patient, the same question, like, how do you replace the collapsed dreams? How do you replace the longer plans? How do you replace the thing that he has lost with a what we call a day to day or hour to hour, sort of week to week sort of meaning? How do you discuss it? It changes from person to person, but there may be a reason. There may be something in there which the patient can identify. Okay, I can do I cannot build a house now, but maybe till tomorrow, this is what I can do. So this is what Viktor Frankl said, like, help the person to find a meaning. Need not be the ultimate meaning. Help the person to find a meaning immediate life, like for the next week, for the week after, or for the 1 month that he or she is about. So we are looking at what we call specific meaning of person life at a given moment. That is, when a lot of things for this patient, a lot of things have collapsed. A lot of things may not work now. A lot of plans will not materialize. So we have to help him find something to look forward to for the next day, or something to look forward to the next week. This can be very simple thing. This can be things like, for example, reunion with an old friend. This can be something with visiting a familiar place. This can be something like a group of friends dropping in. But we need to know what is important for this person. At this point of time, what can interest this person? We need to bring this in. So this is again related to the meaning of life. And also there is another definition, something very closely associated with what we are thinking now. Is that Joan Borysenko is a writer, regular philosophical writer who writes in US journals. She writes about medicine and philosophy, medicine and spirituality, etc. And there's a famous quote from her. She was saying that spirituality is all about relationship. It can be like the quality of the relationship. When we are in a right relationship, we feel a sense of joy, sense of peace, sense of meaning, sense of being comfortable. And it feels like a type of congruence. The object of the relationship is immaterial. It can be a good relationship with a friend. It can be a good relationship with a family member. It can be a good relationship with nature. You enjoy sort of seeing a river. You enjoy, or it can be a good relationship with an activity. You enjoy music. You enjoy a book. So whatever be the relationship, spirituality is about the quality of that relationship. It can be your relationship with God. Like a believer can have a good relationship with God sometimes. Sometimes I say sometimes because not always. Or it can be with your community. So this is what like. So the one area where we can work when we work with this patient is like explore the relationships. What is this person's relationship with God? What is this person's relationship with other people in the neighborhood? What is this person's relationship with, say, books or music or nature? So what actually makes him happy? What are the things which makes? So this is like, again, she was saying that okay, this is what spirituality is. And again, if we connect it with what Viktor Frankl was saying, you have an area of exploration here. You can explore a person's existing relationships, broken relationships, a person, things which he or she enjoyed in the past, things which he or she would enjoy now, and then see whether we can put some short-term goals on this, like somebody visiting, going to a place, or listening to music, or whatever. So, but this will mean that you sit with that person. I'll discuss that later. Sit with this person, explore the person's history fully, explore the little pleasures in that person's life, dreams in that person's life, and what makes the difference even now. This will take time, but this is very important. So when you consider spiritual issues, generally things which are considered spiritual, one, suffering associated with this diseases, what we already discussed. And again, connected with this is again we discussed losing meaning and purpose. Because somebody who wanted to continue to work and get his daughter married off, and now the daughter is only 5 years old now, and this man gets pancreatic cancer and he realizes that I have only 1 year to live. So the one major meaning in his life was his daughter, and he knows that okay, this will not material. Or a youngster with osteogenic sarcoma, a youngster who wanted to become, say, follow a course and make sort of get a job and do a lot of things in life. Osteogenic sarcoma with lung metastasis finds that okay, this will not happen. So losing meaning and purpose in life is a spiritual issue. Loss and abandonment, like this we very often hear, like a strong believer and believes so far that God will protect him or her, and now we find that okay, so he ends up with this situation, and this neighbor who is not a believer at all, who has been doing a lot of things against God, is still healthy. So people feel abandoned, not just by God. People sometimes feel abandoned by the medical system. You went to the hospital with the hope that you will get cured, and they failed to cure it. So this is also something, a spiritual issue. Guilt or shame, things they have done in the past, and now reflecting on, feel that, okay, I should not have done that. That has caused this condition. Even if otherwise, like a lot of things which become, which were important then, now become irrelevant. Like you fought with your neighbor for a piece of land, and now you know that, okay, you are about to die, and that piece of land is of no use to you. So this sort of guilt and shame would be there. And losing trust, like you start feel that, okay, people hide things from you. You cannot trust anybody. You cannot trust God. Okay, that's also there. Pre-problems reconciliation means you are not able to adjust to your situation, because last year, this time, you were healthy and you were making a lot of plans, and this year, the same time, you are down. You are down, and you are not able to accept that. Okay, how can I? Like, because I had a lot of plans and I was doing this and that, and losing hope, all sorts of hope. These are all spiritual issues which most of our patients face, and we will know only when we start talking to them. Because if you just give the pain medication and leave, you will not have time to do that. But so this will mean sitting with the patient, exploring, and you will find that these are some issues. And spiritual needs, this is not just for the patient, this is for us also. Every human being has a spiritual need, whether believer, non-believer, religious, non-religious. One meaningful philosophy of life. What are the things that I will not compromise in my life? What are the values that I will stick on to in my life? What is my moral sense? This is something that I need to ask myself, not to convince anybody, but to know that, okay, this is what I am. That we should know. Meaningful philosophy of life. A trusting relation with the outside world. It can be with a person, a few people. It can be with God. It can be with nature. What gives you comfort? A person's company, or some, for example, music gives you comfort. Okay, well and good. Or listening to, or sort of going to the sea, or sitting on the beach, watching the sea gives you peace of mind. So you should have a trusting relationship. It can be with God also. You sort of whatever. So a trusting relationship with outside world is important, and relatedness to nature and people. Experiencing love and forgiveness. You commit mistakes and people forgive you. Other people commit mistakes and you forgive them, and you experience love. You experience friendship. This is important. A sense of life meaning. This is something that we discussed. And the question, you should be able to find an answer to the question, why should I live? It can be very sort of basic things. It can be small things, or it can be a big thing, whatever. But you should have an answer. Why should I live till tomorrow? Or why should I live for another year? So this is a sense of life meaning is important. And sense of transcendence. Sometimes people feel that the presence of God, outside self, connected to God, that is also that. So these are the things that we consider spiritual needs. And this is not just for the patient. This is for any one of us. For us to survive, meaningfully, peacefully, these are needed. And when you look after a patient like this, spiritual care, because this is unlike the medical nursing care, and some amount of emotional support, for which you are formally trained. This is an area where you are not formally trained, and we commit the mistake of very often equating it with religious care. I commit the mistake of just calling the priest. And when you ask what will you do for spiritual care, many people say that I will call the priest. It's not the way. That a priest will be helpful only if the person is religious and has the same wavelength as the priest. Otherwise, the priest will not be of any help. Right? This is something that all of us have to do. And so what we basically need to do is to train yourself to be a compassionate person. Listen to the patient's fears, hopes, pain, and dreams, not just the physical symptoms. And obtaining a spiritual history, I'll tell you how we can do that. And attentiveness to all dimensions of patient. patient, body, mind, and spirit, not just focusing on the body. So this is our role. Again, before that, there's a precondition. There's a precondition. If you want to give solace, if you want to give peace to or help the patient to achieve peace, you should be at peace with yourself. If you are in a turmoil and if you're already disturbed, and you may not be able to comfort somebody. So one was something that in our training program, what we usually do is to ask the trainees to reflect on themselves. What is your philosophy of life? What does human life mean to you? What does death mean to you? So only if you realize that this is okay, this is what it means to me, then only you will be able to explore what it means to the other person. If you yourself are blind in this area, you will not be able to explore. So this is the first step. First step is to sit down and ask yourself, what is your philosophy in life? What are the values that you will hold on to? You still hold on, because this is just to yourself. You can be totally honest. You don't have to show it to anybody. Just you're asking yourself and you are realizing it. And what does human life mean to you? What does death mean to you? And you should be comfortable in what you believe. You are not supposed to push it upon the other person, but unless you are comfortable the way you are. If you're not comfortable the way you are, you need to change yourself to become more comfortable the way you are. And it's important not to thrust it on the patient, because that's a different person, you are a different person. Totally different background, totally different life experience, and totally different situation. So what is ideal for you need not be ideal for that person. What is good for you may sometimes be harmful to that person. So never trust your experience or your belief on the patient, and identify your own limitations, because you are not superhuman beings. We are just healthcare professionals. We also have our own emotional problem. We have physical limitation. We have psychological limitation. We need to know this is okay. This is something that my limitation for me. So this is our first step in our role. Understand ourselves. Understand and which are the areas I'm not comfortable with. What is my philosophy? What are the things that many of us, almost all of us, will have a philosophy of life, but we might not have thought about it. Spend some time reflecting on it. This is something that we need to do. And then you need to specifically explore spiritual pain in the patient. One thing is suspect spiritual pain, like most of these patients have spiritual pain. Establish a conducive atmosphere. It needs to be quiet. You need to be alone, sitting quietly with the patient, and ask specific questions, express interest, listen for broader meanings in conversation. What does he really mean? And be aware of your own beliefs and biases. We all have our own biases, though we do not recognize it. We don't have our own belief system. So be aware and explore what is the meaning, value, personal of illness, burden, control. I'll pose the questions in the next few slides. What is the patient's faith? What is the religious life, spiritual life? These are the areas to be explored. And very often, this is again, you cannot generalize, but when you take a lot of patients, this is what we usually find. As causes of spiritual pain in patients, very often old fights or broken relationships, sometimes things they have done in the past, now they regret it, because when you are ill and you're better, you get a lot of time to reflect on yourself, what you have done in the past and what is it now and all. So people very often are worried about broken relationship and visit. When people, friends or family members visit, they know that it's a last visit, probably the last visit. I won't see this person again. That causes a lot of pain. And lifetime project, sometimes you have been struggling really hard to achieve something. For example, building a house. So for example, or getting a job. Some of these, and then you suddenly find that it does not have a meaning now. Absolutely no meaning at all, because that becomes irrelevant now. And unfinished business causes something that things that you are not able to finish. It causes problem, financial plans, and the need to forgive and to be forgiven. You feel that, okay, you've done something bad for another person, and somebody else has done something bad for you, need to be forgiven. And then this person, till last month, this person was walking around and doing a lot of job and ordering things around. Now suddenly he finds that even to go to the toilet, he needs help. He cannot get up from the bed, he cannot walk. So losing control and dignity very often causes a lot of pain. Loss of relationships, and also the feeling that I am a burden. It causes a lot of pain. Physical suffering also causes pain. These are the general issues. You cannot like take a list and say that all these patients have all these problems, but generally when you talk to them, these are some of the areas which need to be understood. And spiritual care means listening to the patient's story, sit with the patient and listen, encouraging the patient to search for meaning, telling your concern and acknowledging the pain of loss, generating hope whenever possible, and owning your limitations. I'll discuss. So there are a few questionnaires, formal questionnaires available. Many of them are copyrighted, but you can get them online. The one that I've been using regularly is called Hope questionnaire. It has 4 parts. Simple, very simple. One is H, which is called sources of hope. Second is O, which is called organized religion. The third is P, personal practices, and E, effects on medical care. And I'll go through these questions. Not verbatim, but these are the themes. First one is you are exploring what is the source of hope for this person. Not hope for cure, but why does this person, what keeps this person alive? What brings him comfort, or what is the strength, inner strength, or peace, love, connection? What are the positive things now, even now? How does he survive? Who offers support? Whether this is his inner strength, or how much is it? Whether this is the family's support, what gives hope? This is sources of hope. You can ask them what is there in your life that gives you internal support. What are the sources of hope? How do you hold on to during difficult time? What sustains you and keeps you going? And you can also explore religion. Just one moment. Explore religion. You can ask, for some people, the religious and spiritual beliefs can be a source of hope. Is it so for you? If somebody says that my religious beliefs help, and I'm a strong believer, you can ask questions about that. If the person says that no, I'm not a believer, then you don't ask further religious questions to that person. If somebody says that I'm a religious person, then you go to this is specifically for people who say that that person is religious. Do you consider yourself part of an organized religion? How important this is this for you? What aspects of your religion are helpful and not so helpful to you now? Because certain aspects of your religion may be helpful now. Certain aspects of your religion may not be so helpful to you now. Are you part of a religious or spiritual community? In addition to being religious, sometimes you belong to a particular day, a church group, or a mosque, or a religious group. And does it help? So these are basically, we are exploring from the suffering point of view. What are the religious beliefs which are helpful? What are the religious customs or religious groups which are helpful? Which are the things which are not helpful? And then personal practices. Somebody may not be religious, but somebody may have faith in something called God. Do you believe in God? That is one basic question. And the second question is also important. If you believe in God, what type of relationship do you have with God? What is your concept of God? How is God treating you, and how are you treating the God? And what aspects of your spirituality or spiritual practice are helpful to you now? Which are the things which are not helpful? And then you also explore the effects, like has any of these been affected? Has any of your religious practice or spiritual practice been affected by the disease or the treatment? Do you expect me to do anything on that? And then is there any conflict between your belief and what you find here? Is there any conflict between what we give you and your belief system? So these are some basic questions. Basically, you are looking for what are the things which are helpful to him at that point. What are the things that are not so helpful? Are they connected with what are the sources of hope? What are the sources of support? Is religion one of them? If so, how? Is God one of them? If so, how? And what are the other things that we need to know? So this need to be explored, and then we will be able to sit with the patient and explore further and give solutions. So we are not offering solution. We are only helping the patient to think in these terms and find the solutions himself or herself. So this is what I have to say. I think we have 5 minutes more. Any 1 or 2 questions I can answer.
You can also type your questions in the chat. We'll read them out for you.
Yeah. Either type in the chat box or raise your hand and ask. Basically, we were
Yes.
saying that we need to know the person fully. We need to spend more time with the person. We need to know what gives support at this moment in the time of crisis. Where does he get his support? What is the inner strength? What are his religious beliefs which are helpful? What are the religious beliefs which are not helpful? What are his relationship? If he is a believer, what is his relationship with God, and how much of it is helpful, how much is not helpful? Is there anything else that can be helpful? Anything that the patient enjoy? Anything that the patient does not want to happen? So these are the areas where we need to explore. Sit with the patient, listen to the patient, ask questions, and then we'll be able to act jointly with the patient. We'll be able to identify some targets for the next day, some targets for the next week, some targets for the next month. So this is the basic practical approach. This is basically derived from logotherapy, and this is the basic principle.
Any questions, sir? Anyone? Dr. Ju, so do you have any questions? Yes. Mr. Sultan, Tanujan sir, or Puvi Karan? Anyone? Even though your video camera is off, like you can still ask questions or type them in the chat.
Yeah, either. We have 4 or 5 minutes now, 3 or 4 minutes. I think we don't. Yeah. Either they're confused or they're convinced. Whichever way.
Sir, anyone do you want to just say something or disagree with sir or anything? Or
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
I think
yeah, no one- yeah.
Okay. Dr. Pavikaran, his camera is not working and signal is weak. I think. Okay, Vanilla. I think.
Thank you.
that's
Sir,
it.
is it all right if I share
Yeah.
the PDF copy of PowerPoint with the trainees, sir?
Yeah, please share it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I think next week also we are going to see you for one more session on 4th August, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
on role of volunteers.
Just send me a reminder like.
Oh,
what you-
definitely, sir. Definitely, I'll send it. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank
much. And
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
great having you, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye.
And for all the participants, just a housekeeping announcement, requesting all of you to, just hold on. I'm going to share the feedback link and requesting all of you to please give us your valuable feedback. And our next session will be on 4th August, Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. again. So because of unavailability of faculty, today also we had to cancel the second session. So there's only one session for the day, and requesting all of you to please give your feedback, and then we'll see you on 4th August, Wednesday at 7 p.m.